actually going to get the most out of the Acoustics 5010 compact bookshelf speakers? If you're a casual TV watcher who just wants a little more punch than your TV's built-in tweeters, they might be a good fit. If you're an audiophile hunting for a reference-grade soundstage or a home theater fanatic who needs massive bass without a sub, you may end up wishing you'd spent a bit more. And, of course, the million-dollar question: does the price line up with what everyday buyers really need? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I first saw these speakers, the thing that caught my eye was the promise of a compact system that still claims an accurate soundstage. The hesitation that most of us feel before clicking add to cart is simple. Will a 4.5-inch mid/bass driver and a 1-inch tweeter actually fill a typical living room? Or will they sound thin and get lost behind a noisy TV? I've spent a few weeks swapping them in and out of a modest 45-inch flat-screen setup, pairing them with a mid-range AV receiver and a turntable, just to see how they behave in the real world. The goal here isn't to list a laundry list of specs, but to walk through what you'll actually notice on a night in front of the couch or on a Sunday morning listening to vinyl. Let's start with placement. Because the 5010s are literally under 9 inches tall and about 6 inches wide, they sit nicely on a bookshelf, a media console, or even a desktop shelf. I tried them on a low TV stand, and the sound projected cleanly across the room without needing to be elevated to ear level. That low-profile design is a real win if you're living in a small apartment or you don't want a wall of speaker boxes taking up visual space. The downside? The compact cabinet means there isn't a lot of internal volume for the woofer to move air, so you'll feel the bass more than you'll hear it. In a room under 150 square feet, the low end feels tight and controlled, great for dialogue clarity, but if you crank the volume for an action movie, the thump will stop short of that deep rumble you get from a larger floor-standing pair or a dedicated subwoofer. The tweeter is protected, which basically means it's recessed behind a grill that's meant to keep dust out without muffling high frequencies. In practice, the highs are crisp enough to make a vinyl record sound like it's being played on a decent cartridge, but they aren't piercing. I noticed that when I played a high-resolution streaming track with lots of cymbal detail, the sizzle came through cleanly, yet it never felt harsh on my ears. This makes the 5010s a solid choice for people who enjoy music that has a lot of airy tone. Think acoustic singer-songwriters, jazz ensembles, or well-mixed pop. But if you're into bass-heavy EDM or heavy metal riffing, you'll probably feel like you're missing that punch you're used to. One of the practical strengths that often gets lost in marketing copy is the speaker's ability to blend well with a surround sound setup. The 5010s come as a pair, and the manufacturer markets them as surround sound speakers, which is accurate if you use them as rear channels in a 5.1 system. I tried that configuration by pairing them with a couple of Acoustics 3020 front speakers and a sub. The rear ambience in movies was surprisingly immersive given the size of the units. The speakers managed to create a decent sense of space without the sound spilling over into the front dialogue channel. For a modest budget, that's a real value add. You get a full surround experience without having to buy 4 separate satellite speakers. Now, let's talk about the downsides that are easy to overlook until you actually plug them in. First, the power handling. The 5010s are passive, meaning they need an external amp or receiver. If you pair them with a low-power receiver, you'll notice a loss of dynamic range. Quiet passages become too quiet, and you'll have to push the volume higher, which can introduce hiss. The speakers perform best with a modestly powered, well-damped amp that can deliver clean 30-40 watts per channel. In my tests, a mid-range AV receiver with around 80 watts per channel gave a smooth, distortion-free performance, but a cheap 20-watt stereo amp left the mids sounding a bit flat. Second, the aesthetic is a sleek satin black, which fits most modern core, but the finish is prone to fingerprints. If you have kids or pets that love to climb on furniture, you'll find yourself wiping the surface more often than you'd like. It's not a functional flaw, just something to keep in mind if you're looking for a set-it-and-forget-it visual element. So, who should walk away from the 5010s? If you're a hardcore audiophile who measures frequency response, wants a tight bass response without any assistance, and expects a wide soundstage that can fill a large living area, these speakers will feel underpowered and you'll likely be disappointed.